With petrol prices on the rise, the interest in EVs is on a definite upswing. Perfect timing then for Tata Motors to launch the updated Tiago EV. Obviously, it gets a lot of changes, but the biggest revision is to the pricing. It is now rupees 1 lakh less than it used to be before, and that makes it the most affordable EV in India. How does it all add up? We are in Bengaluru to find out. Now let's start with the design. The whole front fascia is different. You get a new bonnet, new fenders, new LED headlights, a new bumper and a blanked off grille. Now this time around they say that they want to have a greater distinction between the ICE car and the EV, but that's not necessarily a good thing because on the ICE car these parts here are black and there's more black on the bumper which gives it more definition. Here it just tends to look a little too monotone. Tata will sell you some sticker packs which you can add here to add some pattern, but overall as it stands right now it just looks a little too bland. The silhouette now is pretty much unchanged, but Tata has added these fender flares right here which do give it a little bit more visual bulk in this area, but they also make these 14-inch steel wheels look a touch too small. The wheel caps though, they are a new design. And at the rear we have a new bumper and a new tailgate with the Tiago.ev script on there, and we've also got new LED tail lamps, nice neat units connected by this red bar. This looks like a connected light bar, but it actually isn't, it doesn't light up. Now while we're back here, let's take a look at the boot. 240 liters, pretty respectable for a car this size, but since this is the EV and the batteries live down here, we don't actually have a spare tire. Inside is actually a very big upgrade on the previous version. Every plastic panel, everything inside is all new. The dashboard has a completely different layout. We have this fabric trim on the top which looks quite premium, but it might be a little hard to keep clean. The steering wheel is new. Gone is the gloss black trim that we used to have and the illuminated logo. People complained that there were too many fingerprints because of that. So there is a new steering wheel, also new control stalks, very similar to the ones we get in the Sierra, nice round ones, very nice to use. The door cards are new, the window switches are new. We still retain physical controls for the HVAC, which is very, very good. Tata has not given it the haptic buttons that it gives on, let's say, the Nexon or even the Sierra. They've stuck with the physical controls, which is very welcome. Automatic climate control, of course. We also have a new center console. It has 2 slots for your phone right here, but the EV does not get a wireless charger. The ICE version does. So these are just slots to store your phone. The rotary selector is quite conveniently placed right here. And a side note on this, Tata seems to have updated the shifter at some point because it doesn't seem to hesitate like it used to before when you were moving from reverse to drive or drive to reverse really quickly. Also on the center console is a new armrest, nice and convenient with a little cubby in here. Overall the ambience in here has taken a big step up from before. Tata also claims to have re-engineered the seats, and it's quite easy to see because the thigh support is a lot better than before. There is also extra bolstering in the side bolsters here and a decent amount of lumbar support. Movable headrest though still not on offer. The driving position is quite good, but the steering only adjusts for rake and not reach. Reach would have been nice to have. In terms of tech, we have a 10.25-inch infotainment screen. It has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's the same size as before, but it has been updated. So it's a lot snappier to use, very quick to respond. Nice and sharp resolution as well, and it now comes with a 360-degree camera. And given the car's price point, this is actually a pretty decent 360-degree camera. It also gets blind spot assist, which is very handy. Another highlight is the instrument cluster, which is now a freestanding unit. The way it is positioned and the fact that it doesn't have a binnacle makes it look like it's a TFT screen, but in fact it's just a simple LCD screen inside this, which is not too bad because it is quite easy to read. Everything is very logically laid out. One issue though is that at my driving position, the top right corner of the instrument cluster is partially obscured by the steering wheel. And in the back seat, room is actually not too bad for a car of this size. This seat is set in my driving position. I am 5'8" for reference, and I have a decent amount of knee room. Headroom, of course, is no problem at all. Tata has also reworked the back seat, so there is a little bit more thigh support. It's not great, but again, if they had to increase it more, it would eat into knee room. So overall, it's not a bad place to spend time. Headrests though are still of the fixed kind. But the big new change is we actually have rear AC vents now. In terms of features, the Tiago EV also gets height adjustable driver's seat, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, switchable regen modes and cruise control. Safety has improved too, with 6 airbags now standard, up from just 2 before. Tata has also strengthened the platform for better crash worthiness. The only miss is rear seat load sensors. Now let's see how it drives. So what's it like to drive? Well, in terms of powertrain, not much has really changed. We still have two battery pack options. There's the 19.2 kilowatt hour unit, which is mated to a 61 horsepower motor. And there's the 24 kilowatt hour unit, which is mated to a 75 horsepower motor. That's the one I am driving. Now, these battery packs are pretty much the same as before. And a lot of you have asked why the Tiago EV couldn't get the Punch EV's battery pack. And there are a couple of very important reasons for that. First of all, the battery pack on the Tiago EV is split. So half of it is where the boot space is and half of it is under the seat. And the Punch EV on the other hand has an underflow battery, which means that won't fit in this car, which is exactly why they couldn't give you a bigger battery. Cost is another factor. Tata says it could have increased the size of the existing battery pack, but that would have pushed prices up, stepping on the toes of the Punch EV. Instead, it has focused on improving charging speeds. Tata claims it can now accept up to 30 kilowatt from a DC fast charger, up from around 20 kilowatt on the outgoing version. We will verify this towards the end of the video. We are trying to drain the battery as we speak, and towards the end of the video, we'll plug it into charge and see how long it takes. The claimed MIDC range for the smaller battery is 226 kilometers, while the bigger battery is said to deliver 285. Now, since the battery pack is exactly the same as before, we have thoroughly tested the previous version of the Tiago EV and we received a real world range of about 193 kilometers. And that's what you'd pretty much expect from this car too. What that means is that in typical city use, you could go about 4 or 5 days without needing to charge it. And if you, let's say, want to go from Mumbai to Pune, you could do it in a single charge, but ideally you'd want to make a quick stop in between to top up. And that's really where that quicker charging time comes in. And since the power figures are the same, it does feel pretty much the same to drive. And that's no bad thing. Now, if you are coming from another EV or you've driven other EVs, this might not be too impressive to you because it's not the sort of EV where you pin the throttle and it pushes you back in the seat. But if you are coming from a budget hatchback or something else, ICE driven in this same segment, this will feel quite zippy. In everyday city mode, it's very usable. The instant torque that you get from the motor makes scooting in and out of gaps really easy. It's quite enjoyable to drive in the city. And when you're out on the highway, you can put it into sport mode and that gives you a fair amount of power to make some quick overtakes. Now the acceleration does taper off once you're above 80 or so, but you still can cruise at close to triple digit speeds and still have a little bit of power left in reserve to make a quick overtake. It's also worth mentioning high-speed stability on the highway is really quite impressive for such a small car. It doesn't get pushed around too much by crosswinds. It tracks straight, it's confident, holds its line quite well. Also, ride quality remains a Tiago strength. It manages to ride with the aplomb of a car which is possibly a category up. It soaks up all the bumps really well, but at the same time it doesn't toss around the passengers inside the cabin. It really is one of the best riding cars in this segment. With its battery pack mounted low down, the Tiago EV has a lower center of gravity, which helps it feel confident and stable through the corners. The steering also helps with that sensation. It's not brimming with feel or feedback, but at the same time it's quite direct. It makes it quite easy to place the car exactly where you want. It has a decent amount of weight to it once you're at highway speeds, but really the highlight is how light it is at city speeds, and while parking, it makes parking and driving through tight spots really effortless. And while we're at it, the regen modes actually work really rather well. There are 3 modes of regen and you can switch it off completely if you're out on the highway and you want the car to just coast. So I find like the middle setting works best for most scenarios. You can have it in the highest regen and that will bring you down to a slow crawl. It will not bring you down to a full stop, so that means it doesn't really have one pedal driving, but still the regen works really well, nice and progressive in the way it works. What I would have liked though are paddle shifters to adjust the region. As it stands, we still have to use these buttons on the dashboard, which isn't very convenient, especially now that we know that the petrol AMT gets paddle shifters on essentially the same steering wheel. But enough about that. Let's move on to the charging test and see if Tata's claims hold up. So after a full day of driving, we are finally charging the Tiago EV to see how fast it can actually charge. And yes, indeed, it does actually charge at now 31 kilowatts. We started charging at 17% and reached 90% in just 40 minutes, which is fairly close to Tata's claimed 20 to 80% time of 30 minutes. That's a dramatic improvement over the previous version, which took 58 minutes to achieve the same charge. As is typical with EVs, charging slows down significantly beyond 90%, with the final 10% likely taking another 30 minutes. The new 6.99 lakh starting price is certainly tempting, but that only gets you the 19 kWh battery and a very basic feature set with no power windows or infotainment screen. For the larger 24 kWh battery, you'll need to shell out Rs 9.49 lakh, and at that point, you're getting uncomfortably close to the starting price of the Punch EV. And therein lies the problem. As a city car, the Tiago EV is an excellent choice and a great entry point into electric mobility. It looks fresh despite some iffy detailing, the cabin feels upmarket, the feature list is comprehensive, and the powertrain offers enough performance and range for most users. But once you start looking at the top spec variants, the Punch EV simply offers more for not a lot more money.